Well, I'm back from this little project which I had no intention, quite frankly, of even completing as I started out. Well, how wonderful do you feel right now? We're done! It's done! The entirety of the narrative of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings has been read... Oh, no, I can't stop with the English accent. Has been read and produced once again, but with sound effects mixed in and with music mostly by that wonderful guy, Howard Shore. I really can't stress enough how happy I am to know that you have all stuck with this project since the very beginning. It's just amazing. Your comments on the last part I've recently done that I've read are simply gratifying. As many thanks as you have, I feel the same way in return. Thanks so much for getting through it. And thus, the Fourth Age of Middle-earth began. And since Tolkien at least attempted to write a sequel, but didn't, we're here, on this debriefing video. So, how do I feel about this? Well, actually, I don't feel very different at all. I'm excited that it's all done and now that you have the complete box set to listen to from beginning to end, but for some reason I can't even fathom the idea that it's been so long that I've been doing this. It just seems to be another job done, really. Yes, indeed, it's been since August 2010 that I actually started doing each chapter from the very beginning, but I actually really started, as some of you know, in April of that year and attempted a test which was King of the Golden Hole from the Two Towers. After that I did half of A Journey in the Dark, and if you're new to this project, well, those two are quite a step down in quality from the rest, and that's why. Not to worry, though. Even though the official production of these audiobook chapters are finished, I am still going over older chapters and re-recording them from Fellowship of the Ring. In fact, I've already re-recorded 2 chapters, secretly. I hope to continue to do that occasionally, to make the dialogue less monotone and also fix ridiculously embarrassing audio glitches. Not to mention the dozens and dozens of misreadings of words. Oh, I hate those. Some of these audio glitches aren't actually glitches, but sheer laziness on my part when I was doing earlier chapters. Now, you might have noticed that chapters 2 all the way to 11 in Fellowship never panned from one end of the stereo sound to the other when multiple characters were speaking. It was all in the center. How dumb of me. This was just my primitive and lazy way of suggesting that it was still an audiobook and characters were coming from the same source, the narrator, and didn't need that hassle of putting their voices in various places to keep an illusion of space. That sort of thinking stopped, and I think I really improved during the Two Towers. I even made the characters a little quieter in contrast to the narrator to blend in with the sound effects more, which is why I really, really want to go back and make much more dramatic lines for the characters and give the narrator a much more exciting tone as he reads descriptions, as I do in Two Towers and Return of the King. There's also other minor things to fix and tweak in Return of the King and Two Towers as well. Seriously, Lothlorien, the Mirror of Galadriel, and most importantly, the Shadow of the Past are on my top priorities to redo. I'm actually in the middle of re-recording Lothlorien as we speak. Not only will I replace the dialogue, but I will also add more subtle sounds, which make it more realistic and more understandable to a listener. Just how I did in the second 2 volumes. And I'd like to show you what I mean. Here's some samples of comparison for you to clearly see the difference of those chapters. Take a listen.
You ought to go quietly, and you ought to go soon,
said Gandalf. 2 or 3 weeks had passed, and still Frodo made no sign of getting ready to go. I know, but it is difficult to do both, he objected.
You ought to go quietly, and you ought to go soon, said Gandalf.
2 or 3 weeks had passed, and still Frodo made no sign of getting ready to go. I know, but it's difficult to do both, he objected.
Very well, he said. I think that will do, but must not be any later. I'm getting very anxious. In the meanwhile, do take care, and don't let out any hint of where you are going. And see that Sam Gamgee does not talk. If he does, I really shall turn him into a toad. Very well, he said. I think that will do, but it must not be any later. I'm getting very anxious. In the meanwhile, do take care and don't let out any hint of where you are going. And see that Sam Gamgee does not talk. If he does, I really shall turn him into a toad.
Sam disappeared. The sun went down. Bag End seemed sad and gloomy and dishevelled. Frodo wandered around the familiar rooms and saw the light in the sunset fade on the walls and shadows creep out of the corners. It grew slowly dark indoors. Sam disappeared. The sun went down. Bag End seemed sad and gloomy and dishevelled. Frodo wandered round the familiar rooms and saw the light of the sunset fade on the walls and shadows creep out of the corners. It grew slowly dark indoors. "Well, now we're off at last," said Frodo. They shouldered their packs and took up their sticks and walked round the corner to the west side of Bag End. "Goodbye," said Frodo, looking at the dark blank windows. "Well, now we're off at last," said Frodo. They shouldered their packs and took up their sticks and walked round the corner to the west side of Bag End. "Goodbye," said Frodo, looking at the dark blank windows. A little below him to the left the road ran down deeply into a hollow and disappeared. A little below him to the left the road ran down steeply into a hollow and disappeared.
"I don't like my thoughts, but thinking of one thing and another, and Mr. Bilbo's stories and all, I fancy I could put a name on the creature. At a guess. A nasty name. Gollum. Maybe? I don't like my thoughts, but thinking of one thing and another, and Mr. Bilbo's stories and all, I fancy I could put a name on the creature. At a guess. A nasty name. Gollum. Maybe?
Yes, so you know about our little footpad, do you? He padded after us all through Moria and right down to Nimrodel. Since we took to boats, he had been lying on a log and paddling with his hands and feet. I've tried to catch him once or twice at night, but he is slyer than a fox and slippery as a fish. So you know about our little footpad, do you? He padded after us all through Moria and right down to Nimrodel. Since we took to boats, he has been lying on a log and paddling with his hands and feet. I've tried to catch him once or twice at night, but he is slyer than a fox and slippery as a fish. The boats were all huddled together. "Ahoy there, Aragorn!" shouted Boromir as his boat bumped into the leader.
"This is madness! We cannot dare the rapids by night!" "Ahoy there, Aragorn!"
shouted Boromir as his boat bumped into the leader.
"It is madness! We cannot dare the rapids by night!"
Turn if you can!" He drove his paddle into the water, trying to hold the boat and bring it round.
Turn if you can!
He drove his paddle into the water, trying to hold the boat and bring it round.
"But this seems to be a lucky one. Now perhaps we can get away without those cursed goblins seeing us."
"But this seems to be a lucky one. Now perhaps we can get away without those cursed goblins seeking us." Seldom in my life has any boat come out of the north, and the orcs prowl on the east shore, said Boromir. "If you go forward, peril will grow with every mile, even if you find a path." "Peril lies ahead on every southward road," answered Aragorn. "Wait for us one day. If we do not return in that time, you will know that evil has indeed befallen us. Then you must take a new leader, and follow him as best you can." "Seldom in my life has any boat come out of the north, and the orcs prowl on the east shore," said Boromir. "If you go forward, peril will grow with every mile, even if you find a path. Peril lies ahead on every southward road," answered Aragorn. "Wait for us one day. If we do not return in that time, you will know that evil has indeed befallen us. Then you must take a new leader and follow him as best you can." They were tired and sleepy, and their hearts were as gloomy as the dying day. "Well, here we are. Here we must pass another night," said Boromir. "We need sleep. Even if Aragorn had a mind to pass the gates of Argonath by night, we are too tired. Except, no doubt, our sturdy dwarf." They were tired and sleepy, and their hearts were as gloomy as the dying day. "Well, here we are, and here we must pass another night," said Boromir. "We need sleep, and even if Aragorn had a mind to pass the gates of Argonath by night, we are all too tired. Except, no doubt, our sturdy dwarf." See? Well, maybe you don't, but I do, and I think I'm pretty happy with how those are turning out. So, now, with the end here, what could you possibly expect from this channel? Well, you are all amazing, and thanks for being the kind subscribers that you are. The reason I even started this account was to put up my short movies and other little projects I undertook over time. Therefore, the Lord of the Rings audiobook was one of those undertakings. And even though it took 3 years to complete, that's what it was. Now, don't think I don't disregard it. Far from that. It's awesome. I couldn't have done it without you, but as you all know, I am mainly interested in making films. It's just the culmination of everything I like to do. You know, audio, video, cinematography, lighting, visuals, pacing, storytelling, design. All of that is there to do in film form. Well, of course, not only film form, but that's kind of the primary thing for me. And as such, that's what I will be focusing on later. I can't tell you how punctual I'll be with new videos, but rest assured they'll more or less find themselves here, or whatever other art project I'd like to show. Well, what would an ending video briefing be without showing more outtakes? Unfortunately, just like the Two Towers, there haven't been many particularly funny bloopers, but I managed to salvage all I could find from the September to June and present it to you. Most of them are complaints about the outdoor noises, but still you might get a laugh out of a few of them. Enjoy. Well housed intended. For in the sixth circle, outside the walls of the citadel, there were some fair stables. There were some fair stables where a few swift horses were kept, hard by the lodgings of the errand riders of the Lord. Messengers always ready to go at the urgent command of Denethor or his chief captains. But now all the horses and wooden his attack will draw off much of the help that we looked to have. Now I have to be a lad. I have to be an 11-year-old. I have to be an 11-year-old. There's an 11-year-old in the book. What am I going to do? But I don't know. I don't sound like an 11-year-old. I think I'm going to listen to some 11-year-old kids. Sir, I want some more. We will not outlast the night. Yeah, that's right, that kid. What was that, Philippa Boyens' kid? Who's like, he has these huge shoulders and everything, and he sounds like a 17-year-old woman. I mean, girl. They say we will not outlast the night. Oh, no. Veil behind the son of their lord, Dervorin striding on foot, 300s. From the uplands of Morthond, the great Blackroot Vale, Tol Duin here. I am Legolas, son of Thranduil, who has giant eyebrows. Legolas, son of Thranduil, the king of Mirkwood, I guess. He has giant eyebrows. I keep telling him to clip those off. They look ridiculous. But no. Does he listen to me? No, of course not. Thinks he's great with the ladies. What ladies is he trying? Is he trying to... Never mind. Gandalf. Hasselful was already saddled, and at the same moment... But great indeed will be my haste ere... I am troubled in mind, Lord, he said, standing by the king's horse. I've heard strange words, and I see new perils far off. I have labored long, and therefore only of your free will I will. But am I not of the house? If their masters refused the way and stood sweating and trembling in fear, now all roads were... Sometimes where the way was broader, we trusted it is as you wish. We trust that 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 it is as you would wish. Though the night chill blew cold from the heights and no lanterns glazula that had been carved in the likeness while he was peering from sight, no power or terror was left with them. But Mary gazed at them with wonder. So good!
You drink as well, huh? You drink as well, huh?
Yes, I drink as well. Beautiful smoothie of kiwi fruit, and rising out of the deep slopes of somber pines, dividing the upland into the... Dividing the upland into two. In the inner part of the small place called the hanging to strong skins, there came a small table of the normal house. The smoothie is fitting for me. Yet he is a kingly man of high destiny. And take comfort in this, daughter. Hail, Lord of the Rohirrim, friend of Gondor. Hail, Lord of the Rohirrim, Hail, Lord of the Rohirrim, friend of Gondor. Gondor is in great need. Often the Rohirrim have aided us, and fear has fallen on all our coastlands. If it must be so, it must. If it must be so, it must. May at the least disturb the orcs and swarthy men from their feasting in the White Tower. I'm done with this garbage. I can't do anymore. And I would not have it said to me in song only that and I would not have it said of me in the Lord of Rohan, yes, foremost, Foremost went 12 of the king's household men.
Endless years from the models used by the forgotten craftsmen long ago. Models used by the forgotten craftsmen long ago.
Do you hear that? I hate that. Why does he have to do that same tone? I really...
Han, booty han. Kilgokun, kilokvok.
And Deowine, their chief, was among them. Their chief was among them. But 7 stars were about it, and a bright crown about it, and a bright crown above it. Hello? 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 But.
My precious!
And he seemed at first to be asleep, for at the beginning Faramir spoke only of the errand upon which he had been set out 10 days before. And he brought tidings of the garbage truck coming towards me, while you hear it in the background. Why is my British accent so stupid? Why can't I talk like this when I read? I don't know. Listen to that garbage truck. Isn't it amazing?
The garbage truck of Gondor. They take the garbage from many places and houses, but now not many houses remain. I mean, not many residents, so there isn't much plumbing and all that stuff to do. But, of course, there it goes, wistfully taking away the garbage down to the river and polluting it. Oh, Lord, that's why it's so brown. Don't drink from that water. Lots of crap in there. You're in the house of the star. Now I may do as you're told. Why can't I talk like this when I start reading?
Why can't I talk like this when I start reading? That's the problem, isn't it? Isn't it the problem? Yeah. Right. Now you can hear me talking to myself. That's chaos theory. There he goes away. Thank goodness. Goodbye, garbage truck. Good riddance. If by my life or death I can save you, I will. Or was it protect you? I think it was save you. Anyway, here I am. Wonderful. Ooh. For the stones may be lost, for the... Eowyn, Eamon's daughter, awake, for your enemy has passed away. She did not stir, but now she began again to breathe deeply, so that her breast rose and fell beneath the white linen of... So that her breast... When you make a pause with breast, it sounds... So that her breast rose and fell between... Crap. So that her breast rose and fell beneath, so that... Oh, beneath, not between, beneath. So that her... She began to breathe deeply, so that her breast rose and fell beneath the white linen of the sheet. His finger bones were still clawing at the cracks. A notched and broken sword lay by him, as if he had hewn... As if the dogs came up and showed up and helped, and everyone was happy, and Aragorn went and bought a burger at Burger King, and then said, I need a cheeseburger. And then he found a cheeseburger, but he found out that no, all the dead took all the cheese. Why did they take the cheese? I don't know. Do you think I know everything? I don't. But I need a cheeseburger. Ha ha ha! Brilliant. With that out of the way, I want to tell you about extra pieces of the Lord of the Rings audiobook I didn't manage to get around to doing yet. One of those is the infamous prologue. Since I can't find my old recordings of this prologue, it'll be a goal of mine to get it read. That and 1 or 2 stories from the appendices of the Lord of the Rings. Most likely the story of Arwen and Aragorn, as many of you wanted me to do anyway. And then probably,
Durin's folk.
But since it's summer and I am taking it easy, expect it sometime in the later months. Should be fun. And now we come to it. Yet again. The Hobbit and the Silmarillion. Yes, I heard so many of your requests for those two, and yes, I think it would be cool to do as well. Seriously, it's cool. But, yes, I said but. I'm going to have to explain myself on these. Okay, so firstly, the Silmarillion. It's basically the history of Arda, written in a certain style. That style is not exactly the same as how Lord of the Rings, let alone The Hobbit, were written in. If Lord of the Rings is the intermediate stage, the Silmarillion is the pro level of what Tolkien's Legendarium is all about. It's vast, and therefore it has very little of the human eye view of the world. Therefore, to adapt it into an audiobook with such music and sound effects would be a little uninteresting, as most of the text will not dictate the actions as intricately as they do in Rings or Hobbit. It would be a different kind of feel. Not only that, but its biggest problem is that, obviously, the music is something I would have a much harder time grappling with, since there is only very little I could salvage from Lord of the Rings, and the rest would have to be patched together using completely unrelated music. If I were to try an audiobook with sounds and music for the Silmarillion, it would have to be with dedicated co-workers who are skilled in fields such as those. It would take a lot more thinking and work to get it sounding the way it should. Therefore, I'm going to say that in the near future, the Silmarillion is not really in my field of vision.
Vision, you will pay for your lack of vision.
Oh wait, that was the Emperor.
You will pay for your lack of vision.
And then, the easier one, The Hobbit. Yes, now that the films are slowly coming out, I will have music for this one, or so it seems. And yes, it's much shorter than The Lord of the Rings. It's also quick and entertaining. What's stopping me, right? Well, the truth is I'm just completely fatigued. Really. I think I've done enough with Lord of the Rings right now. I also think I've spent all the voices I could do. To be honest, the Hobbit isn't really something I'm thinking about doing as an audiobook. Yes, I'm very sorry to tell you that. I like the book a lot too. I even did voice tests for Smaug almost 7 years ago and would be excited to show those off. But I can't right now. It's been a long time doing Rings, and throughout the later chapters of Return of the King, I've been getting more and more, I kind of say it, lazy about the work, as it was getting very monotonous and boring. Since I knew exactly what to do in, the process of the audio stuff, which would partially explain how long it took to complete the final chapters. It was just a struggle, because I knew how to approach it, and I knew how much work would go into it. Kind of ironic, really. However, I have been working on another form of audio production concerning The Hobbit. I also have quite a few episodes of that done as well. I will continue doing those, but I will also say not to abandon hope with The Hobbit audio production. We'll see in the future if something much more special might be possible. Also, okay, I just want you to do this, just for me. On the comments section, down there, yeah, please, whatever you write, don't write, "Now do the Hobbit and the Silmarillion." Okay, let's try to be awesome and keep that clean form of comments in this video. Huh? Sound good? I believe in you. You can refrain. Yes. If I see that on the comments, I won't do anything, but still, if you can do this, you can do this. Master your urges. Anyway, now that you understand, we can move on to another topic, and that is, in the vein of outtakes and alternate versions, I was, and still am, planning on doing 2 alternative versions of the Mount Doom chapter. Now, I wanted to do this for April Fools, but of course that would have taken a lot of time, so it was postponed. That one will be very out of left field and quite humorous, but still feel plausible in a strange way. Hope to do that one. And the other one will probably be more interesting. Ready to hear the pitch? Well, I was interested when I read Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. I think it was letter 246, and it raises the question, what if Sam had killed Gollum at the slopes of Mount Doom? I had some time to think about that, accidentally one night, while working on the Mount Doom chapter, and I think I would really like to write an alternate ending in which this happens. I think you'd actually find it interesting, and since I've been reading Tolkien's writing for this long, I can at least try to mimic his style a little and try my hand in getting something like this done. It was really interesting for me to read Tolkien's answer to this, so with that said, I hope to do that one of these days as well. Should be a strange and rather dark alternative if that were to happen. Think that sounds interesting? Well, I think so. Anyway, I'd like to thank you once again for listening to all this. And of course, I'd love to do an extra Q&A video, as I've done last time. If you have any questions about other things or the process of this or whatever, please do ask in the comments section. It would be fantastic to get some of those out there if you're interested. I'd also like to give a good mention to Jesse Hall, who has been tirelessly getting some background vocal work for a few chapters in this audiobook. He's been pretty excited about it, and I felt it a good thing to mention here. In fact, he's prepared a little audio post note that I should also play on here. So, without further ado, here he is.
Hello everyone, this is 112 Moment Kill. I just want to thank Phil DeGraja for letting me be a part of his wonderful experience of being in the Lord of the Rings. I also helped work with him on the 2 towers. I was the Uruk-hai voices in the background, like the snarling you hear, like that sound. And also that you also hear some of the panting and the orcs talking in the chapter, I think it's chapter 3? I'm not quite sure. I also helped him out in Helm's Deep as well. You can also hear one of the Uruk-hai voices go, run! Like that. It was pretty fun being in Uruk-hai and doing that. Also, there's one of the human voices as well. You can also hear the voice in there. But being a background voice in a Lord of the Rings video is very fun. As I've seen with Phil's, with his audiobooks, they must be very hard to do. Because I don't know how he does it, but I gotta say, he should be called the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings, that's why I call him. Every time I see his videos, I see, Phil DeGraja, the Lord of the Rings. It's good to see you. I saw you in the 10th Commandments. Oh, also, speaking of which, he also created a video called Lord of the Rings, Totally Screwed Over. I was also in that one too. So anyway, working with Phil was also a good thing too. The first time I met him was asking him to be a part of his experience in his Totally Screwed Over videos. When I first asked him, I thought, oh no, I was afraid to ask him, so I coughed up the courage, and I said, would you like an extra voice to be in the Lord of the Rings videos? And he said, oh great, we need some background voices. And so, it's great to be working with him. He's a cool guy. But in any case, I just want to thank you. Yeah, Phil, you're a great guy, and you're a great friend too. I mean, even though we haven't met, but still, you're a cool guy. And also, I want to thank everyone for reading his books, supporting Phil, living up to his dream. Thank you, Phil DeGraja. You are a great person, and I hope someday you become very famous. And I want to thank everyone once again for watching, the videos and downloading onto your iPod or MP3s. And this is a message for Phil. If you have any future projects at all, look me up, okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
I'd also like to thank my friend for providing some rather nice horse sound effects. She recorded some of her horses that I used throughout Two Towers and Return of the King. It's mostly the very subtle sounds of breathing, and a few neighs that appear too. I'm also thankful for a few of you guys that helped me spot some errors in the YouTube chapters that I quickly fixed for the MP3. All of you who sent me quite a few messages for me over the time to let me know. Also, I'd give a special mention to Riccardo Ricobello. What a great name! Who actually wanted to do an Italian language version for this audiobook. Since I can't speak Italian, I can only say that his inflections, voice, and variety is fantastic. And he does a great job with it. You should really check it out. I got it on the comments. You can check the link. Anyway, all of you have been extremely supportive, and I can't thank you enough for that. I hope you'll be able to enjoy this little project for quite a while, and as I update the MP3 versions one by one. Yes, please, 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 always get the MP3. I know the YouTube version is more convenient, but I've done a lot of improvements and can always update them with the MP3s. Also, it's in a much better quality as well. So, I encourage all of you to get to that. Right now, I am sorry I can't give you one folder to rule them all just yet. So you can have the convenience of a one-click download, but I can give you the page where all the MP3s are lying in wait. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little, small debriefing, and I thought it was going to be a little bit more epic than this. Epic! But I guess I was wrong, because, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was... We'll do another video after this. So, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. One more video to come.